Kalashnikov rifle. CTV's Amanda Blitz followed the story very closely and has the latest on the investigation angle here, Amanda. These men still at large.
That is correct. Police say 3 men stormed the office and methodically killed 10 journalists, and then once they were leaving, exchanged gunfire outside, killing 2 police officers before fleeing in this car. To take a look at the video images we have of them. So you see them heading back to their car. All of this happened around 11:30 local time, which means these men have been on the run for 10 hours. The whole ordeal took all of 5 minutes. After the attack, they went back to their black car, as you saw, this getaway car. But it was later abandoned. Forensics are now dissecting it. They have been for hours for evidence. A police official said they then hijacked a white Renault car. Now, it is believed video technology is being used to track these men. The gunmen were clearly well-coordinated and well-armed, speaking perfect French and acting like trained Islamist commandos. One witness inside the building told French media that one of the suspects said he was a member of Al-Qaeda. Police have yet to identify the attackers or explain why they did this. There is amateur video, as you've seen, however, of at least one shouting Allah Akbar, or God is great, that they had avenged the Prophet Muhammad. The weekly paper had caricatured.
They can say whatever they want about us and our religion, but as soon as you say one word about them, they're shooting you.
Yeah. It's very likely.
Here are just 3 of them. Stéphane Charbonnier, 47, was the chief editor of the magazine and also one of its top cartoonists. Georges Wolinski, 80, also a cartoonist. He was awarded the Legion of Honor, France's highest decoration, back in 2005. And Jean Cabot, 76, he had a career as a cartoonist spanning for over 60 years. And I want to go back to the editor, though. That first person you saw there, he is Charbonnier. He was in charge of Charlie Hebdo back in 2011 when it was firebombed after the paper proposed inviting the Prophet Muhammad to be a guest editor. And in 2012, the paper again created controversy by publishing crude caricatures of Muhammad, but Charbonnier defended their actions.
Without freedom of speech, we are dead. We can't live in a country without freedom of speech. I prefer to die than live like a rat. I don't know.
So Todd, this manhunt continues, 10 hours and counting. Meanwhile, French President François Hollande, as you had mentioned, already speaking, declaring tomorrow a day of national mourning. A moment of silence will be held at the local time, and flags will remain at half-mast for 3 days across the country.
All right, Amanda Blitz with the latest. Thanks for that, Amanda.
You're welcome.
Tom, as you know, is my guest. He's a professor at the University of Ottawa. His area of research focuses on terrorism and defense policy. And Thomas, good to have you on this program. What can France realistically do here?
Well, what can France realistically do? That's a very difficult question to answer. I think that France, like the rest of Western Europe, like Canada, like the United States, we all need, in the West, to have a sober look at the extent of the threat of terrorism. I mean, if we look at it, there's been a pace of almost an attack a month. January, Paris; December, Australia; late October, Ottawa and Montreal, south of Montreal. This is a serious threat that we have to deal with. So we need to really have a societal debate in Western Europe and North America in terms of what should we do about this threat. What extra resources should we give to the government, if any? What extra powers should we give to security services, in our case, the RCMP and CSIS? Should we give them more? Should we broaden their mandates? And that's a debate that we started to have in Canada in late October, but that debate really fizzled out after only a few days. So here and in France and elsewhere, we have to think really carefully about what our next steps should be.
How do you ratchet up the defense, ratchet up the intelligence without turning France, Canada, Australia into police states?
That's a very good question, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to turn France or Canada or any other Western country into a police state, because keeping open, democratic, prosperous societies is a more important aim, in my view, than protecting against terrorism. It's not to say that protecting against terrorism is not an important aim, but it's a lesser aim than the broader one. So there's a balance to be found between these two aims, but in my view, that balance should skew more heavily on the side of keeping our society as it is. You can give more resources to security agencies like the RCMP and CSIS if you deem that it's necessary, without compromising your freedoms and your everything that makes up up a democratic society. Just to give you an example, in a variety of testimonies in front of Parliament, senior leaders from the RCMP and CSIS have said, we have so many ongoing terrorism cases that as we give more resources to cover these cases, we're cutting resources that we assign to things like criminality and drugs and so on. We need to think about this very carefully. Should we be giving more resources to be able to keep that balance?
My guest has been Thomas Junot. He is with the University of Ottawa. Great to have you on the program, Thomas. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And the Queen offered the following statement today about these attacks in Paris. Prince Philip and I send our sincere condolences to the families of those who've been killed and to those who've been injured in this attack in Paris this morning. We send our thoughts and prayers to all those who have been affected. We also heard from British Prime Minister David Cameron, who said this.
What has happened in Paris is an appalling terrorist outrage, and I know that everyone in Britain will want to stand with the French government and with the French people at this time.
David Cameron there with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, of course. Meantime, in our country, Canada's Public Safety Minister Stephen Blaney commented on the attacks. He was in the Quebec City area today. He had this to say.
We are saddened and horrified by the terrorist attack in France. This barbaric attack is unacceptable, and our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families, of the journalist and the police officer during this difficult time. We stand with France on this dark day.
Let's bring in CTV's Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief Lori Graham, who's standing by live for us in the capital. Swift response as well, Lori, from the United States. Who's spoken so far?
Well, a number of leaders or government officials have spoken, of course, not the least of which is the U.S. President, Barack Obama. He came out today denouncing the shootings and saying that, this was not just an attack against individuals, but an attack against the freedom of speech in a civilized society. Take a listen. He had a lot more to say.
For us to see the kind of cowardly, evil attacks that took place today, I think reinforces once again why it's so important for us to stand in solidarity with them, just as they stand in solidarity with us.
And Todd, he's saying that standing in solidarity with the French government, but Obama also vowed that his administration would work with the French government to bring the perpetrators to justice. And we do know now that the FBI is working with its counterparts, its French counterparts, to do just that as the investigation continues.
And worldwide, we're obviously hearing condemnation because, whether it is Ottawa, St. Jean-sur-Richelieu, whether it's Sydney, Australia, there have been attacks, of course, in many other countries around the world. Now, Paris.
Absolutely, and I think that that's something, a sentiment that was expressed today by all leaders. Just a little while ago, you had British Prime Minister David Cameron on. He is talking about, denouncing these attacks, describing them as sickening, but it was leaders from all around coming together, knowing that whether they've already faced an attack, like Prime Minister Stephen Harper here in Canada, or their country could be at risk. Every leader today coming together, saying that they stand together against terrorism, but also stand together in support of the French government, of the French people. It is also really interesting because Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, came out today and said that this is also, an attack that is trying to divide, and he encouraged countries, world leaders, its citizens to not let that happen and to use this time as a solidarity within the world. And it seems today, Todd, that as leaders all came out today denouncing these attacks, most everybody is standing in solidarity.
Lori Graham in Ottawa, thank you very much for this.
You're welcome.
All right, we want to give you a quick recap here of what happened. We know 12 people are dead. There are many other people injured, though, some of them critically. Those dead include 10 journalists, 2 police officers, gunmen storming the office of the magazine Charlie Hebdo. It is a satirical news magazine, comes out every week. The attack began just before noon local time. By the way, it's coming up on 10 o'clock local time in Paris. A manhunt is now underway, possibly in the northern suburbs of Paris. France has raised its threat level to